So it is possible, however time-consuming, to import your contacts into your Gmail one by one. And the way you would do this is you would go to your mail and then you would click Contacts, which is generally down on the bottom on the left-hand side, and then you could just click Add a Contact, and you would get this screen where you can put in the name of the person, you can put in the person's email, and any other information that you want to put in as well, and then just save. But that's really time consuming, especially if you have 120 or so students, as any secondary teacher would have, to do it that way. And so instead, what Google provides is a way to actually import contacts, excuse me, way to import contacts. And you have to create a CSV file, which is actually really just a spreadsheet. And what I'm going to do is show you how to create a form that your students can use, or anybody else that you would like to use, so that you can have a spreadsheet that you can use to import as many contacts as you want all at once. If you're familiar with Google Forms, it's actually pretty easy. If you're not, it's still pretty easy. So I'm going to go to my documents. I'm signed into my email. When I go to documents, I'm going to hit Create New, and then I'm going to go down to Form. And here I get a form that I can easily ask any questions that I want to. I'm going to start just by titling it. I'll put Mrs. B's students right here. I can put any help text that I want to or any explanation right in this field. And as you can see, Google has created for me 2 sample questions. Now you have to be careful with the questions, especially the first 3, because Google only understands certain field names when you import contact. So one of them is first name, and the only issue with that is that we really want students to put in first, oops, can't spell right now, first initial only. And that's just for security purposes, and that's part of the naming convention of their email as well. So we can leave that as text so they can type their answer right in here. And of course, you're going to warn them when they go to the form that even though it says first name, you want them to put in their first initial. If you were doing other than students, other teachers, for instance, or other types of contacts, you probably wouldn't do it that way. You'd just say first name. I'm going to hit done. The second question, as I move my mouse over sample question 2, notice it becomes sort of peachy colored. I'm going to click that edit button, and now I'm going to type in last name. And I'm also going to make that a required question and hit done. Now I didn't make, you can tell it's required, actually I did make it, you can tell it's required by seeing that little red asterisk next to the question title. So now I need to add a question. Of course, what I need to do next is collect their email address. And I'm going to make that required, and I'm also going to hit done. I could also add some other items if I want to. This one is going to be choose from a list. So maybe I want to collect their period number. Period 1, period 2, period 3, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to make that required as well. I could also add other fields if I would like to, and that would go into the notes page. So for instance, maybe I wanted to ask the students about what are their hobbies, what are their favorite subjects, anything else that you really wanted to know about your students. If you want to have some fun, you go to the theme button, and you can see that my survey was just being saved automatically, and here I can choose whatever theme I want. There's about, I don't know, 95 themes exactly. I'm loving that glue, so I'm going to say apply. And down at the bottom is a link to the live form. So now they can start to put in their first initial, last name, their email address, which by the way would start with the year they're graduating from the high school, and would have their last name, first initial, and of course it's going to be at milburn.org, and then here they would pick whatever period they're in, and they would hit submit. You can have them then go back to the form, and the next student could do it as well. Now this is kind of a really long URL, so I'm going to copy it, because one of the things that I really like to do is use tinyurl.com to create a shorter URL. I'm going to paste it in there. I could give it a custom alias, so I could have something like tinyurl.com/Mrs. B's students survey, but I'm not going to do that for this purpose. I'm just going to hit make tiny URL. That's the URL that I would probably post to Edline, to my Edline site, or post that somewhere so that my students could access that pretty easily, that survey pretty easily. So now what happens if I go back to my Google Docs and I'm going to hit refresh? Oh, there it is already. I didn't even need to hit refresh. I see Mrs. B's students. And as you can see, MMouse has already been imported into my spreadsheet. Okay? And now all I have to do is turn that into a CSV file and import it into my contacts. So this is part 1 of doing that. The next thing you would do is go to screencast part 2, creating a CSV file to import to your Google Contacts.